evening from Wales, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling insight news and reviews on a daily basis. It's been a hectic 24 hours, mainly because Ricky Starks, formerly in AEW, showed up on last night's episode of NXT. He had no theme, no name, none of that. He was just in the crowd. It felt massively old school, and it was brilliant. But we're going to get into that today. We're going to be talking a little bit about what went wrong for him in AEW as well as what should be next for him in WWE as well. But before I do all of that, I got to introduce today's panel. And firstly, it's a guy who I feel like I haven't been on a show with in a little while, actually. How are you today, Clark?
I was going to say, I almost just out of the gates was immediately like, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Wrestling Republic's Daily Broadcast. And say the date. I got thrown for a loop there for a second, but I'm so stoked to be back. The old school formation. It's Ben at the mic 1, me at the mic 2. I do just feel like it's been a little less than the 16 hours since I've talked about Ricky Starks last night over on Off the Air, but I'm hyped to get back into it. And we've got all kinds of good stuff to cover today on a Wednesday. I'm stoked to be here, Ben.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you for covering for me on Monday, Clark. I mean, Monday, I had the absolute day from hell, and half it I can't even get into on air. But also joining us today, we have David Sheldon, the reviewer for AEW here at Wrestling Republic. How are you, David?
Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be back. I calculated the other day. I think this is the second or third show I've been on in 2025. I've just been so busy, and so I've barely been on any of the dailies. So it's so wonderful to be here, particularly for our topics today. And obviously, Ben, you mentioned in the first topic about Ricky Starks' NXT debut, but considering that nobody on the show actually said the name Ricky Starks, they just said we should know who he is. And given that WWE appear to have trademarked a bunch of names, I can't wait to talk about the WWE debut of Osiris Griffin. Let's get on with it.
Oh, Osiris Griffin.
Don't worry. Every time I will not mention Ricky Stark's name. Every time I will say a different one of those 12 names. I'm going to see if I can keep it up through the rest of the show.
God. I hope it's not us. I hope that's not the name. Numero 1 says hello to you, Numero 1. Fernando says, what a surprise last night. Pretty Ricky on NXT TV. No doubt about it.
Pretty Ricky though, because of the R&B group. Come on, guys. Old school. That's from my high school days. Pretty Ricky.
Well, he could join Pretty Deadly, and he could be Pretty Ricky there, maybe.
I don't know. Pretty Ricky.
I hope not. Eludes.
Pretty Ricky was on the hotline, Grind on Me. They had a bunch of hits in the early 2000s, guys. Come on. You guys were like 3 or 4 years old. Don't you remember? They were all over the radio.
I might not have even been alive.
Google them after the show because you'll actually laugh at their music.
Soul says, guess he's going to have to vacate the Defy Championship. And this was just crazy to me. In fact, let's just jump head first into this Ricky Starks topic, right? Because we haven't seen Ricky Starks in AEW for pretty much a year now. We haven't really seen him since he lost the Tag Team Championships with Big Bill. I think we saw him once since then. And ever since then, he's just disappeared off the face of the earth, seemingly. We've had no answers. He did an interview where he gave little to no answers, but said, he wants to be back on TV. He's happy to do anything, basically making it clear that, hey, I'm not refusing to do the job. That's not what's happening here. But we never really got the answer as to what went wrong, why he was off TV. Now, we could presume maybe Tony Khan found out that once Ricky Starks' contract did expire, he wanted to go to WWE. But is that really a good enough reason to write somebody off a year in advance? I mean, surely you just have them, in like mid-card storylines for the year and then doing jobs to a few people or something like that. I don't know. But a couple of months ago, he started popping up on independent wrestling shows once again. Then, of course, that entire GCW situation happened, which is a whole other thing for a whole other day. We've spoken about it at length before. But most notably, 2 days ago, he was in Defy Wrestling, to Soul's point, and he won the Defy Championship off of Kenta. And then 24 hours later, he was on NXT TV. And to David's point, no name, there was no theme, there was nothing, no graphics even. It was just him in the crowd. It felt very rushed, but that added to it for me. It really, really did. Will he have to vacate the Defy Championship? I'd be surprised, I would be, but who knows? But it is a crazy one, Clark, and I know you briefly spoke about it last night, but I want to get your thoughts now. You've had a bit more time for it to really digest.
So I think a major factor that we often forget when it comes to professional wrestling is how physical this sport and entertainment space is, and how dangerous it can also be. The idea of allowing a disgruntled wrestler to work out their contract and put other people over safely is just scary to think about from a booking standpoint. You're potentially putting other talent in danger. I am not saying this as an indictment.
Does that, though.
I'm not saying this as an indictment on Ricky Starks in any way. I'm sure Ricky is a pro's pro and would be great, but it just on paper, if somebody is very clearly wants to leave, it's really hard to justify putting them in the ring with someone else to look bad, even in this industry. And I think it's a classy move to let Ricky Starks do what he wants to do. I think it's kind of been obvious on paper for all of us as fans since Cody left. That's his guy. I mean, he helped him pack his office up. We saw that happen. That wasn't a great look for Ricky at the time. I'm glad to see him anywhere. NXT is a great place for him. I don't know for sure about the Defy thing. Hopefully that gets figured out. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know if he for sure goes by Ricky Starks in NXT. Hopefully he does. I thought the debut was outstanding. But for me, this is just a very complicated conversation. And I don't like to just lob stones in glass houses when it comes to things like this, as far as AEW's side of it, Tony Khan's side of it, Ricky Stark's side of it. This is real life. This is business. It's people's livelihoods as well. And for me personally, I was just happy to see him on my TV screen. The Revolution is televised again. I hope he can use that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to be honest, Clark. I'm not sure I've disagreed with anything ever with you on air as much as what you just said. It is
Fair.
Industry standard in this business, and everybody does it at some point or another, whether you're on the indies or in a promotion. I mean, hell, Dean Ambrose in WWE did it to Nia Jax before he went out, and that was a blatant,
Right.
insult to him. I'm just on about being in the mid-card, having a few storylines, and eventually losing to maybe the likes of Hook, not getting squashed. That's industry standard. If you think that he's a danger in something like that, you should be calling the police,
I'm not
taking him off TV.
Ricky Starks is a danger in any way. What I'm saying is we don't know what happened backstage. So maybe
No, we don't.
We don't know for sure. And it's just, it's a complicated situation. I was presenting something that it's a possible scenario there, right? Like, if a guy doesn't want to put someone over or be there, it's going to be hard to convince them. I get going, on the way out, but the most by the code pro wrestler of all time, they had to pull the screw job on in 97, Bret the Hitman Hart.
That's a little different, though. That situation is massively different.
Mr. By the book, they had to pull that on.
And he was even willing to do the job. He just wasn't willing to do it to Sean.
Right.
And it's very, very different
after they built up a match with Sean.
Yeah, but we all know there was
Right.
more to it than that. But here's the thing, right? I do believe, to your point, there was a lot more to this that we don't know. And it is why I've been saying for so long, I really so badly want Tony Khan to do a podcast and to just air his side on everything. It's not going to happen. And I understand why not. I understand it's not great.
Wrestling Republic, it's a safe place.
It is.
Come vent. Come talk to us. It's going to be a good time. First round's on me. Good dinner afterwards. Talk some football. It'll be fun. It's an open invitation to Mr. Khan.
Absolutely.
Open invite.
Here's the thing. Tony Khan seems like a reasonable guy. I don't believe that. There must be more to it that we don't know, and I just really want to hear his side. But here's what it's also annoying me, right? And you briefly mentioned it right there, is essentially, WWE fans now celebrating the acquisition of Ricky Starks, not celebrating the fact he's back on TV, but celebrating the fact that he has left AEW. Guys, WWE is not a sports team. AEW is not a sports team. You can like both, right? You can be happy for Ricky Starks for sure. I'm delighted. But you don't have to be doing all this team stuff.
There is a level of irony in that, Ben. I think you brought up a great point there. If you think about like at AEW's outset, there was this, they got blank, they got Punk, they got Jericho, they got Matt Hardy, Brody, right? Like,
yeah.
Every single time it was so celebrated, it feels a bit like a receipt or a bit like,
it does, but both
the
sides
pot
do it
calling
too.
the kettle black. No, it's both sides do it. It's funny, though. Now there's this
fans are turning on him. It's just nuts.
Every time an AEW star crosses over now, it's a big celebration. And we knew this would happen.
I understood it when Vince was actively making an effort to treat wrestlers like garbage. I understood he's not in WWE anymore. Let's watch him do it. Let's watch them actually get a chance to wrestle now and not, put them in all sort of manner of nonsense. But now, when you've got two companies who are at least trying, who have a level of respect, I don't understand it, to be honest.
No, but I really don't. Wrestling's alive and well, and we're still getting all of this. But to DCX Warlord's point, the Revolution is televised. Absolutely. Bobby Petito says it's nice to see Ricky Starks back. No doubt about it. Bobby is also saying that he's looking forward to seeing Ricky Starks in action, and Shard is saying Ricky Starks as talented as MJF and Swerve. It's a shame he didn't get to that level in AEW, but he's excited to see what he does in NXT.
Okay,
absolutely.
This cracked me up though, Ben. The DCX Warlord monster shout out with the comment: "The Revolution is televised on WWE." I watched Raw on Monday with some friends. We were joking around, and it at one stage turned into nearly what chance you could just say on Netflix to everything that was being said on the microphone because they advertised it was on Netflix so many times. And that's just immediately where my brain went, like, the Revolution is televised on Netflix.
David, what about you? How are you feeling about this Ricky Stark situation?
Okay, so let's talk about Hayes Jameson, or he could be Harley Riggins, or possibly Jax Presley. Who knows? He might be the third member of the Flying Elvises. No, I will stop doing that now because that will get mightily annoying. Don't call him any of those. Okay, Ricky Starks. I have forever been a massive, massive fan of Ricky. I mean, I agree with what Shard said about him being on MJF and Swerve's level. Like, I genuinely believe in WWE, I think he's world championship caliber. Easily a main roster world championship caliber. Absolutely, he is. So I'm thrilled to see him on the main roster now. Main roster on NXT. I think it should be a really, really good time for Ricky. I think that his debut promo was fantastic, and I am absolutely thrilled to see him there. Now, what do they think they do with Ricky? Well, Vengeance say they've not advertised, but he's had to withdraw from the independent booking. So I think we might see him now at Vengeance Day. Against who? I don't know. Maybe just another appearance. But I think that with regards to what happened with Ricky in AEW, I think there are so many rumors, so many innuendos, dirt sheets reporting one thing, Ricky coming out denying those reports. I'm not going to speculate on any of those things. So I'm just going to ignore all those and just say that whatever happened between AEW and Ricky Starks, that I'm happy that we are past it and that he's in a place that he is happy and he is content. And that is all that I can ask for with Ricky.
Absolutely. No, I do agree with you, David. It is great to see him there. And it's a fantastic point that you do bring up as well about the fact that, he's probably going to be at Vengeance Day in some capacity. Maybe we find out he's one of those names he read out. Please, no, they are all absolutely horrific. I mean, can't we just call him Ricky Starks? Like, nobody else is called anything similar, are they?
To Ricky Starks? No.
Yeah. Like
Rick Starks?
Rich
Starks?
I guess Joey Stark. Is that the issue?
Rich Starks?
Richard.
Don't
Dick
make me say.
Starks?
Might be a copyright.
I was going to say Dick Starks. I was going to say, don't make me say Dick Starks.
I would say AEW might own the name, but like Surely
No.
we'd know about that by now.
That'd be nuts.
Did he go by Ricky Starks before he was in?
Yes, he did. He went by
yeah.
Ricky Starks in the NWA as well. So, which was when I first saw him, and he was absolutely terrific there as TV champion. But
Yeah.
I can't understand for the life of me right now why they can't just go by Ricky Starks. But what it might be is, and I've seen a lot of people pointing this out, it could well be that WWE don't want to use the name before they actually have the copyright for it. So maybe it's very simply they're waiting for the official confirmation and then they will use it. Because obviously, even with people's real names, they copyright them while they're with the company. Then once they've left, if you've used it before, you then can get it back very, very easily. Because obviously,
I mean, if they're worried about the Zoe Stark thing, call him like Ricky Fresh or something like that.
Ricky Fresh. Oh gosh. Ricky Starks, but spelled in a different way. I mean, maybe.
Rick Starks. I think he grows up. This is the day he drops the Y.
Rick. No, he can't. No.
Rick Starks. It's a strong name. My father's name is Rick.
It absolutely is.
Starks.
It doesn't fit his gimmick, does he?
I mean,
I'm going to be honest. I've got a hot take. You know what, Clark? I've got a hot take out of the gates right now, right? I'm not saying he should stop doing it because I think it's going to get him way over. But when he did that pose last night in the crowd, I thought to myself,
I knew right where we were going.
What are you doing? It doesn't look bad when he's doing it on the top rope. When he's doing it in the crowd, I'm like,
I don't get it.
It's over. It's over.
It is over.
over.
But it's such an absurd pose.
It looks like, what are you doing?
Like even
now?
Randy Orton's like hands out thing has evolved over time and looks cooler now than it did when it first started. But
if Randy Orton debuts in a company, cuts a promo, and then just does that, just in the middle of the crowd while he's level with everybody, I'd be saying the same thing. It's just in its context. When he does it on the ring post, it'll look fantastic.
It looks good.
As it always does. But it was just, it made me laugh when I saw that last night. But now let's move on, Let's talk, in fact, let's actually pretty much stay on the same subject, because 3 names were released from AEW, or released from their website, I shall say, this weekend. And of course, one of them was Ricky Starks, the other one was Miro, and the other one was Malachi Black. Now, one name who is still on their website, he has not been removed, is Rey Fenix. Now, this situation is absolutely wild. I can't get my head around it. I don't understand, if they're not using him, he wants to leave. He's bad-mouthing them. It's bad press, all of this. What I'd be like to him almost is, okay, if you want to go so badly, you can go. We'll let you go now if you sign an NDA. There we are. So that way you can't continue bad-mouthing us, and you can also leave this minute and do whatever you want to do. I honestly think if I was Tony Khan, that must be the go here, because they need to do something. They can't just I can't keep posting these Rey Fenix in prison memes every Monday when Penta's on, right? The comment section loves them, but this can't continue until like week 56 or whatever it'll be.
I think this whole thing's a work. Rey Fenix is an AEW loyalist through and through. No doubt about it. We'll see him shortly back on Dynamite. No, I'm kidding.
AEW champion with a hologram.
Yeah, 100%. Now, this is goofier than a football bat. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, I get it. Why would you not? Well, I mean, you can, so why not? And it's not hurting AEW in any significant way. It's hurting Rey Fenix in a significant way. It's not really hurting anybody WWE wise in a significant way, because Penta's looked the most over he's ever looked at this stage. Part of that's the big celebration. So, maybe kids these days need to figure it out and figure out delayed gratification. Just wait it out. It's going to happen. This too shall pass.
Here's the thing, though, very quickly. It is hurting them because on every single post, on every single social media platform, the top comment has been about Rey Fenix for a month.
I hear that. I just don't know how much damage that truly actually causes. I hear people are still talking about it. The irony is actually that benefits Rey Fenix, if anything, too, because people are still talking about it. People are still talking about him. The contract's either going to expire or they're going to grant him his release at some point. I'm not entirely sure the impact this totally has on anything other than, at the end of the day, it would have been nice to debut the Lucha Bros if you were going to have a tag run in the WWE, but that's not going to be the deal. Is it still salvageable? Yeah. I get it. If you're AEW at this stage, you can only control certain things, and you can control that. And if there's a level of bitterness there, then just be petty. That's fine. That's the deal. He signed a contract. He's stuck in it. And when it expires, we'll see him move over to WWE. I don't think you need to acquiesce to a disgruntled employee necessarily all the time. And I'm not calling Ray Phoenix an entirely disgruntled employee, but he's obviously upset in the way he's handled it. It's been mostly through social media or the media. I don't know what's going on backstage. I don't know what the discussions have been like. It's interesting to me, the entire thing. I don't know if I'll have a stronger opinion on any of it until we actually see how it plays out. That's the most difficult part in my eyes.
No, I mean, that is a great point, to be honest, Clark. We don't really know what's going on. Now, this is what I will say to people who are saying, well, why does he deserve his release? I think if all of this happened and he was still under his original contract, I actually wouldn't have as much of an issue with it. My issue is that it was an option which was written into the original contract, right? So it's not some illegal thing. It's completely illegal. But there's a clause in the contract which says if you're injured, it can be extended by that amount of time if AEW want to extend it. AEW obviously extended it. And this was before he came out and complained, but while he'd still been off TV for months. That's my issue with this.
That's the interesting thing to me, though, Ben, is the medical thing, right? And the mistreatment there, that's a lawsuit, man. That's not something that you just go post about. And we'd have seen a lawsuit by now. They didn't give me a fair shake medical treatment wise. That's why the injury happened. Like, tweets,
yeah.
Right? That stuff, that's a lawsuit. We've discussed that. It is. And we haven't seen a lawsuit, which is interesting to me.
That's what I mean. Here's what I will say too. I mean, to be fair, it could happen behind the scenes. We don't know, but I think we probably would have feared.
That would be public. A civil case like that would be public knowledge.
Yeah. But here's what I do. I mean, this is the thing. If I was Tony Khan, especially considering we know Cody and Punk have heavily hinted they both signed NDAs and they've heavily hinted that publicly, surely you just go to Ray Phoenix and say,
you do anyway.
Sign an NDA. Okay, we'll let you go. You sign an NDA and shut up making up these lies that they'll say or whatever. But it does just feel petty to me. I don't think it benefits AEW in any way. Yet I think it hurts them in a little. I think it hurts Phoenix more than it hurts AEW for sure. But I still don't think it's great publicity when somebody shares a post of AEW's and on more often than not, their post, the top comment is Ray Phoenix related.
That is an issue. I mean, the same thing was happening with Ricky Starks that we just talked about. We've seen a lot of stuff like that. Again, I think I'll have a much stronger opinion when we see when the dust starts to settle here in the coming months, because it is sooner rather than later where the dust will settle on this whole thing, and we'll have a much clearer picture of what actually went down. Right at this point, it's muddy. We know the waters are muddy, but just how muddy, how murky is it? Is it just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's going to come to light, I think, pretty soon.
Let me flip again for a second though, right? Because I do agree with you. It's going to come to light, but I don't think it's going to come to light from AEW's perspective. I think this is going to make them look a lot worse because Tony Khan obviously likes to handle things privately, and I respect him for that. But in this game, I mean, I kind of just want to hear his side a bit because like I keep saying, I don't believe he's an unreasonable guy. I think there must be more to all of this than we really know. Right. So please, can we actually hear it? I mean, I don't know, but
Bocce Ball Pro.
Have you seen the stuff AEW fans post? A lot of them need a psych. So we were saying this a bit earlier on, right? It's the same with WWE too.
Isn't that a little like calling the pot calling the kettle black? Isn't that just like a blanket statement about how
it is.
People need psychological evaluations?
Listen, it's the same with politics, same with a lot of things, right? On social media, it makes the 0.01% a lot louder than they actually are. So it looks like they're a lot larger of the fan base than they actually are. And this is the case in both AEW and WWE. You have WWE people who are celebrating AEW's failures, which is just
Dancing on
to
the
me.
grave.
And then, yeah, it's horrific. And it's not a graveyard either. But
Not a
then,
grave, but no, but that's just a turn of phrase.
And then in AEW, they're doing the exact same thing, turning on everybody. It's 0.01% of fans, right? Maybe that's an exaggeration. It's 0.1% of fans. That's all it is. And they like to tweet. They like to get their engagement. They like to get paid by Elon for all of this. It's all just a bunch of absolute nonsense.
Like you said, you made a great point earlier, Ben, about the sports team aspect. This isn't like your favorite team and your least favorite team. Why would you do that? That's silly. Wrestling needs this. This is, as fans of wrestling, we need both to function well and to succeed. And I think it's possible for both. It doesn't make any sense to me, in tribalism, there's a billion cliches we could go through when it comes to this, right? Like that have been repeated to the nth power, right? Like a billion times we've said them all, but it just, no matter which side you're on a side, and that's not the move, right? Like,
absolutely.
It's the whole industry.
Well, I'm going to be biased for a second because I am actually, Clark, on the side of Progress Wrestling because they have an event this Friday on Demand Progress Plus. It's For the Love of Progress 3, including Simon Miller versus Charles Crawley in a match where to win, you have to hit somebody's finishing move from WWE and then pin your opponent. You're not allowed to pin them unless you hit a finisher right before it. It's very unique. It's for the Proteus Championship. And earlier today, I did an entire video on it. Very fun. I'm excited for it. And you guys can watch it on Demand Progress Plus. And you can use code What'sProgress1 to get 50% off your first month on Demand Progress Plus, the home of Progress, Defy, and a lot more wrestling as well. Hey, you might even see Ricky Starks pop up on there once that Defy event gets uploaded. I presume it will. But now let's move on because we need to talk a little bit about New Japan Pro Wrestling because they had an event yesterday. And I opened my phone and I got a text. I got a text from Soul actually saying, "What did you think about Zack Sabre Jr.'s reign?" And I thought to myself, a very random question to ask. And then I found out he actually lost the title to Goto yesterday. I thought there was no chance in hell this was happening. I was absolutely stunned. My jaw hit the floor. But I checked it out today, a couple of hours ago, the match, and it was an absolute banger. David, I want to get your thoughts on this one.
Okay, so this show, just for context, was the New Beginning in Osaka, which is one of New Japan's sort of bigger, sort of non-Dominion or Wrestle Kingdom events. They do these New Beginning in Nagoya, New Beginning in Osaka, and they do them through the year in various different locations. So, yeah, I saw this as well then. Before I saw the show, I saw the news that Goto had dethroned ZSJ, and I was baffled. Goto won the opportunity by winning the terribly rubbish New Japan Rambo at Wrestle Kingdom that I still hold is one of the worst matches I've seen all year. But he was not the fault for that, of course. He is a phenomenal wrestler, and he is a long-tenured member of the New Japan roster, one of the more longer-serving members who are still competing at a top level. So I was very, very excited for the match, but I've seen Goto and Sabre fight before. I never expected that Goto was actually going to win the thing. Watching the match as it went, though, it was unbelievably exceptional. The story told was about Goto honoring his dead father's legacy and his children and his wife and all of those things. And because of that and because of the rabid crowd, I don't know if that's Goto's home area, but it really felt like it was because everybody was behind Goto, just so behind Goto. And as a result of that, it meant that, it basically played like a match in which, you'd normally get in which a really, really over face comes inches from winning the title and you're into every near fall. Think Sami and Roman at Elimination Chamber. You're into every near fall, but just doesn't quite happen. But in this one, it happened. And I was so grateful. The final sequence of him nailing his finish, pulling him back up with all his might and downing him with a second. Just incredible wrestling. My second favorite match of this year behind Gabe Kidd, Kenny Omega, and it is not a massive bridge. between 1 and 2. I feel for ZSJ a little bit because he's had a good reign, but I don't think quite, the reign that we'd hoped he would have at the top of the mountain. It won't be his last world title. I'm sure if he's sticking around, I'm sure we'll get more. My thing with this is New Beginning on Osaka to me really felt like an old school New Japan show from a few years ago. It felt like New Japan had found some momentum because you had that match, which was incredible. You've got Yota Tsuji and Gabe Kidd who tore the house down. You had Oleg Boltin having an amazing hoss fight against Konosuke Takeshita, which was just superb. You had Drilla Maloney looked really good in the undercard against Shingo Takagi. You had the Bucks against Takahashi, and Naito, who couldn't really walk. But the other three delivered a really good match. And so it was a really, really great show and a really good showcase for New Japan. So I'm willing to give them the thing with Goto at the top of the mountain. I want to see what they can do with it. My concern is you have all these really interesting guys coming up now with Sabre. Uemura's back from injury coming into the New Japan Cup. And obviously Kid and Tsuji and people like that just tearing the house down, as are people like Driller from the War Dogs coming up as well. So I'm interested to see what they do with Goto, whether Goto is going to be this old veteran trying to hold on to the belt against all these younger guys. But for a company that is currently in that rebuild stage, I'm surprised they've now chosen to put it back on a veteran after Naito, because Naito's reign had very little heat behind it. He had good matches occasionally, some quite bad ones, but they never felt like there was that momentum behind him. It went on to Sabre and it felt like it gained a bit of momentum because he had a younger guy pushing forward. Now coming back to Goto again, Goto is a far better wrestler today than Naito is. Not in the past, but today. So Goto can absolutely carry it. It's just, I'm curious to see now if they're going to then transition it back off Goto onto another young star. Maybe Gabe Kidd, might be another. But the New Japan Cup coming up is going to be very interesting to see where their next direction is for the world title, because they have so many brilliant young undercard stars or young up-and-coming stars that they now feel like they're rebuilding, and they've got to capitalize on that momentum to get back to where they were. I don't think they'll ever actually get back to where they were at that peak of their popularity, but get back towards there. But a brilliant show that you should definitely check out, especially that main event, and Kid Tsuji and Oleg Takeshita. Brilliant show.
Yeah. Undoubtedly. I mean, New Japan is undoubtedly in a good position right now. I do agree with you. Zack Sabre Jr.'s reign, yeah, it didn't hit as well as we hoped. I mean, I still enjoyed quite a few matches, but the general online consensus, and even in Japan, is that it didn't really live up to the hype, unfortunately. Goto, to your point, massively over. So, hey, let's see what he can do. Let's run with it, and I do hope you're right. And he drops it to a young talent like a Gabe Kidd, like a Uemura, somebody like that.
Gabe Kidd is the choice in my eyes. I think Gabe Kidd is the choice.
I
was really happy that
Kidd.
David said that. Not to jump in, but I just I watched the match.
Yeah.
Goto, is basically from my era of New Japan. He's been around for so long. I thought it was cool to see him win his first title, and dedicating to his father was really cool. Like an undercurrent part of that I wanted to mention just really quickly. Sorry.
It's also worth saying quickly with Gabe Kidd. Gabe Kidd is now face because he got
a struggle.
Well, House of Torture. No, I think it's the opposite, because they've kicked War Dogs out of Bullet Club now. Okay. Out of the Bullet Club for Evil.
Which sucks.
Yes, but that means this was what was happening. This was what was, and this was what was happening, and this was the direction that it was clearly pushing. Gabe was so over. So against Tsuji, so go with Kid. Let him build as a face, and why not? He's a better heel probably, but he's still an incredible face. So use him like an Austin. Use him as somebody that just doesn't care. He'll kill you either. He'll kill you either way.
Lone wolf type thing.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is, though, I hope you're right about Gabe Kidd or somebody on that level compared to the name everybody's throwing around, which is Yoshihashi, which I don't.
No, I love Yoshihashi, but no, I could see Shota doing it before Yoshihashi does. That's the one. A
lot of people think that's the story they're building. And
he cut his hair. He cut his hair. He lost to Great O'Khan and then cut his own in a hair versus hair match, and then cut his own hair. So all right, new direction for Shota, but not yet. I don't think it should be Uemura yet either. I think it should be. I would have Uemura win the New Japan Cup. I would do Uemura versus Goto at Dominion if he's still got the title then. Give Uemura, let him come that close. and then move it on to Gabe Kidd. But I think Goto's got a lot to give here. I really do as a veteran.
Yeah, I think give him, a decent run, get a few defenses, and just see how it does. Because at any point, I think you need to be in a position where you're like, if, he's not quite up to it, you can get it off him quite quickly. And I think you need to be in that position where you're not necessarily knowing you need to wait until Wrestle Kingdom or something like that. Always know you can take him off him at any time, but I just let it see how it goes for now, and just have in the back of your head who will take it later on. But now let's talk about some All Elite Wrestling. Let's talk about tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, because we have the Hurt Syndicate, more specifically Bobby Lashley and Sheldon Benjamin, going against the Gun Club for the AEW Tag Team Championships. We have Pac, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta defending the AEW's Trios Championships against Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly. That could be a banger. We have, after their promo exchange last week, MJF versus Dustin Rhodes. I'm excited for that. I'm going to be completely honest. I would have really liked them to have done a couple more weeks build up for this, because the promo last week was so good and MJF got booed so badly that I would like to see MJF build himself a bit back up on the mic before facing him and then getting the win. But hey, I'm excited for it regardless. And then we got Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford as well. I'm excited. It's the go-home show for Grand Slam. So let's hope it's a Grand Slam for AEW. David, your thoughts?
Well, I think that this is a good card for Dynamite. Last week's Dynamite was the first one of the year that I gave my proper full-throttled love behind after a few weeks of, I thought, quite middling TV. Even in spite of what, I know you've enjoyed it quite a lot, Ben, until there was a bad run, but a bad week. But I've not really been into a lot that's happened this year. Last week was different. What I will say is Collision has been absolutely fantastic right now. So weirdly, Collision is blowing Dynamite out of the water every week. How times change, I suppose, which is where the Undisputed Kingdom, Undisputed Era trios matches come from. They won a match on Collision. I think it was a number one contenders match. Very, very good match if you haven't seen it. So I think there's some great matches here. I think the tag title stuff makes sense. I agree. I think a few matches are a little bit maybe 1 week too early. I think the Guns versus the Hurt Syndicate is probably 1 week too early. I think that MJF Dustin's 1 week too early. But nonetheless, I'm happy to see it. This obviously, like I said, the go home for Grand Slam, which will be on Saturday. So my prediction is we have a great show. I think MJF Dustin has potential to be really good. I think that trios match has the potential to be fantastic. There's also a Max Caster Open Challenge that's been announced. I won't say who it is because, unfortunately, this show was taped yesterday. So stay away from spoilers, guys. But I do know who it is. But stay away from spoilers. But
great catch.
I'm excited for this show, and I think from the matches that they've advertised, I think we're in for a really good night.
It's Miro. He's rejoined the company and he's returned under this former name, Rusev. Clark, what about you? What are your thoughts going into Dynamite?
Despite the fact that it would tickle me, I do not believe today is the new age of Rusev Day. But I'm always excited to see Penelope Ford because I believe that she has as high of a ceiling as anybody in women's wrestling. And we've kind of overlooked it. She dealt with injuries and whatnot, but as far as athleticism is concerned and charisma is concerned, she's got it. And I'm hoping somehow maybe in this year 2025 that it is, somehow it's 5 years since 2020. Someone figured that one out. It freaked me out today when I thought about it. We give Penelope Ford a legitimate push, especially if she wants it, because I do think she's more talented than she gets credit for as far as the trios titles are concerned. Dang it. I've been saying this for a long time. You have to have a division to build belts. And that one stage, it felt like there was a trios division. And I hate having to do multiplication, but we're talking about like 15 people. If you do actually want to sustain a trios division, that's not what we've got. It's 3, and then we got to build a new 3 every single dang time these titles change hands. We have to build a new 3. There's no threat. There's no division underneath this. There's no stability or foundation. And that's frustrating to me. Now, tonight's match on paper, put those 6 in the ring and just see what happens. What are we talking about here? It's going to be a great match. I'm all over that. Yes, absolutely. But for the future of the trios titles, I don't really understand, with the Death Rider story being what it's been, that we don't end up with something where the trios titles are elevated because of the fact that they're on this dominant rogue group. How do we not capitalize upon that earlier in previous weeks, over the last 6 months, over the length of this entire story, especially when you have names like Pac, Claudio Castagnoli, even Wheeler Yuta involved in this? Like, just be better, please. Tonight's match will deliver. I just hope we can springboard beyond this and create something really special, because I do think that the trios titles can matter at the end of the day, and they should matter, but they haven't felt like it in a dang long time. So I'm hoping tonight's match over delivers.
They won the title all in.
Absolutely.
All in. They've not done anything with it.
I know. I know. Thank you, David. Yeah,
I do completely
I feel
agree
terrible
with your
being
take.
overly critical.
Yeah, I mean, Fernando says Dynamite's going to be excellent tonight. I completely agree. It looks great. Sean saying we need to build Mercedes and Harley a little bit more. That is true, but they had a great segment, to David's point, on Collision this week. Give the Undisputed Eras the trios titles tonight, please, says Shard. Tony says NXT was the best and most absolute episode ever, and Bobby Petito is happy to see the Guns back on AEW television. But yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much all of what you guys have said. Dynamite had, an off week a couple of weeks ago. Last week was definitely a step in the right direction. Collision's on fire. The trios division is thinner than the thinnest is thinner than what's the paper
You can't
called?
have
Tracing
three
paper.
people in the trios division.
You can't. That's not how it works.
You can't do that.
And they're all champions. Oh, they are the trio.
Yeah. It's the trio division. Yeah, we've been pluralizing it the whole time. What a mistake.
They accidentally printed an S on the title. But no, it is true. Hopefully it's a good show tonight. I'm excited for it. That is for sure. But thank you to everybody who's commented throughout. Thank you to Clark for joining me. Thank you to David for joining me as well. David will see you in his AEW review on WrestlingRepublic.com tomorrow. Clark will see you for tomorrow's daily, giving his thoughts on it. And I'll see you guys for Allison Analysis tomorrow, giving my thoughts on it. A lot of AEW content coming out, and it's going to be a whole bunch of fun. Sean Ellis, we're going to make you an AEW fan one day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.